Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at a really strange and frankly kind of audacious set of sources today. They tackle this very specific, almost darkly cynical corporate question.
Yeah, it's basically, what do you do when your product is the definitive, reliable backup, the understudy?
Exactly. You're the number one substitute product in the USA, but deep down, you're never going to be the first thing people grab off the shelf at Walmart or Albertsons.
Everyone wants to be brand X, the big name.
Right. And our sources, which read like these incredibly sharp, satirical board meeting transcripts, they suggest a radical strategy.
Oh, it's more than radical. It's almost villainous. It completely throws out the idea of trying to improve your way to the top.
It does. Yeah, we're unpacking a strategy that shifts the entire goal. You're not trying to win the race anymore. You're trying to manufacture the failure of the competition.
And that's our mission today. How do you take this weakness, being second best, and turn it into a weapon?
Turn it into a kind of grim commercial inevitability? That's the key. This isn't about a better flavor or new packaging.
Not at all.
This is about weaponizing scarcity itself. If you can't make people choose you, you make sure they have no other choice but you. So let's start with how they see themselves, this corporate identity they embrace.
Right.
In the first source, the CEO, a guy named Montague, he lays out this self-perception with this kind of dark, brutal pride.
He doesn't see his company as a competitor. He sees them as a consequence.
The consequence of what?
Of system failure. He says they exist for when option A runs out. They're the direct result of when, and this is a great phrase, the supply chain coughs.
Wow. So they're not the brand you dream about. They're the one you settle for when your dream brand isn't there.
Exactly. He actually calls them the, I guess this will do, of the American dream.
That level of self-awareness is, well, it's the crucial starting point for their whole strategy, isn't it?
It is. It's rooted in a brutal honesty. They're not fooling themselves. They know their value isn't desirability.
It's availability.
It's reliability and availability when the more popular item is gone. Montague says it outright. They are not the choice. They are the inevitable.
And he uses these really specific, almost painful examples. He says they are the great value monk fruit or the Morton salt substitute of the customer's heart.
It's a brilliant way to frame it. They're not brand X's rival. They're brand X's insurance policy.
And once you accept that,
then you can stop wasting money trying to compete on taste and start investing in making the leader, disappear from the shelf. That's the real pivot.
Okay, so this brings us to the core of the strategy. Operation Manufactured Scarcity.
This is Montague's plan for corporate sabotage.
Instead of promoting their own product, they spend their entire marketing budget, every single dime,
to actively promote their biggest competitor, brand X.
It sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, why would you funnel your own money into helping your rival?
Because the goal here is very, very specific. It's to cause a massive, immediate buying frenzy.
A demand shock.
A huge one. He wanted a shock so severe that it would make the, quote, 2020 bean crisis look like a light snack.
And the ultimate goal is just to wait.
Wait for the shelves to be as empty as
But hold on, what about the risk? If they spend millions making Brand X a superstar, couldn't Brand X just ramp up production? Aren't they just making their competition stronger in the long run?
That's the critical question, right? And it shows how well the source understands modern logistics. This isn't about making the competitor popular forever.
Okay.
It's about making them unavailable right now at a specific moment. They're betting that Brand X, like most big companies, just can't react that fast to a sudden manufactured nationwide demand surge.
So they're exploiting the inflexibility of the leader's supply chain.
Precisely. And this is where the financial officer, Jim, he comes up with the perfect term for it.
What's that?
The Robin Hood strategy, but for corporate greed.
That's good.
And the real genius is in this tiny, tiny detail they add to the competitor's ad, the one they're paying for.
Ah, the fine print. The ultimate corporate asterisk.
Yep. They blast the airwaves with, buy Brand X, it's the best. But at the very end of the ad, or maybe tucked away on the website,
There's a disclaimer.
And that disclaimer is the entire engine of their profit. It says, if unavailable, our product is 4% cheaper and 90% as edible.
90% is edible. That is just brutal.
It is. They drive demand to their competitor, but they guarantee that the scarcity they create funnels every single disappointed customer directly to them.
So they're basically buying their competition's scarcity.
They're flipping the whole idea of ROI on its head. They aren't measuring return on investment by brand loyalty. They're focused on return on availability.
The product isn't the first choice.
But it becomes the forced inevitability. They're not winning the race. They're just waiting at the finish line for everyone else to trip over those empty shelves.
Montague's plan feels like a corporate sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Just brute force.
Yeah, create chaos.
But the second source introduces a variation on this. It's called operation, shelf swap, or the understudy principle.
Right. And while the goal is the same, market manipulation, the execution here is much more surgical, more psychological.
So it's different.
This version, from a CEO named Barry, it builds on that idea of manufactured scarcity, but it adds a layer of subtle priming. The goal isn't just to be the second choice, it's to be the substitute for the substitute.
Exactly. They're still manipulating the main choice, brand Y, but they do it by introducing a third, even smaller alternative from their own company.
How does that work?
The ads still promote the competitor, brand Y, but with a twist. The ad subtly introduces, say, a tiny sample size of their own product, brand Z, right next to brand Y on the shelf.
So it's like priming the customer for the substitution before it even happens.
It's about making the eventual disappointment predictable and pre-approved. They talk openly about creating scarcity for them, to create abundance for us.
So they aren't just marketing a product anymore, they're marketing the absence of another product. Totally. The whole goal is to make you, the consumer, subconsciously aware that brand Z exists and is ready to step in even while you're still buying brand Y.
And the phrasing they suggest is just so audacious.
It's incredible, isn't it? Love brand Y. You'll adore our slightly less famous but equally delicious brand Z when Y inevitably disappears.
That's not a sales pitch, that's a future tense apology for your favorite brand fave.
Right. If Montague's strategy is buy brand X now so you're forced to buy us later, Barry's is we know you love brand Y, but just so you know, we're waiting in the wings.
It connects the two sources perfectly.
It does. Whether it's the sledgehammer approach or this more subtle psychological priming, both strategies rely on what they call curating empty space.
They realize the most powerful ad in modern retail isn't a kitchen change.
No, it's an empty shelf right where the product you want is supposed to be.
So why does this all feel so resonant? I mean, it's satirical, but it hits close to home.
Because we've all been there. We've all felt that frustration of scarcity and weird substitutions. The sources even mention some genuinely bizarre real-world examples.
Yeah, those were wild.
Things like people getting sanitary towels instead of sandwich wraps in their grocery orders.
Or fish steaks instead of lemon cupcakes.
The classic one was beef dog treats instead of actual steak.
I can't even imagine opening my grocery delivery expecting a cupcake and finding a fish stick. That is a whole new level of supply chain breakdown.
But those bizarre examples highlight the fragility that makes this satirical strategy so potent.
Right, because the CEOs in these sources are specifically exploiting that potential for breakdown.
Exactly. This strategy works because of how big box stores are actually run.
We mentioned them earlier. Stores like Walmart, they maintain their everyday low price strategy by using these just-in-time inventory systems, JIT.
And we should probably spend a second on what JIT really means for you as a shopper. It's all about efficiency. Think of it like a high-wire act. Incredibly efficient, but there's zero safety net. Stores don't have massive back rooms full of extra stock anymore.
So the new stock arrives just as the old stock runs out.
Precisely when it runs out. It cuts down on storage costs, on warehousing. It maximizes profit.
Okay, so if the system is designed to run that lean, that's what leads to the empty shelf.
It's exactly what leads to it. If you have an unexpected spike in demand, even a small one that the system didn't predict, the shelf clears instantly. There's no buffer stock to pull from. The system is great for steady demand, but it's incredibly fragile when it gets a shock.
And a deliberately manufactured demand shock, like the one Montague proposed,
Would completely break it. It would exploit that efficiency to clear shelves super quickly, which guarantees scarcity.
the system is designed to fail under that kind of pressure.
It is. The supply chain can't react, the shelves go empty, and you, the customer, are forced to look for the next available thing just to finish your shopping.
So these satirical CEOs are basically bypassing all the normal, expensive steps. They're not perfecting the product or running huge ad campaigns.
They're just manufacturing the one condition that guarantees their success. Consumer desperation.
Desperation is a more reliable driver than desire.
And they're exploiting the logistics of modern retail, not the psychology of brand loyalty. And bigger the retailer, the more likely they're using these hyper-efficient, fragile systems.
Which makes them the perfect target.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many times have you walked into a store, seen an empty spot, and just bought the substitute? Because the system was designed to be so fragile, it forced your hand in that exact moment.
Okay, so let's try to bring this all together. The core takeaway from this deep dive is, well, it's a brilliant, if totally cynical, lesson.
It is.
Sometimes the most powerful strategy isn't improving your product that last 1% or getting a celebrity endorsement.
No, it's simply guaranteeing your availability. It's about being reliable when all the other more preferred options fail.
You don't have to be the best.
You just have to be the one that's there when the lights go out on your competition's inventory.
This really shifts how you think about competitive advantage. We're so used to thinking success comes from a better product or better branding.
But these sources paint a world where the goal isn't market dominance. It's market inevitability.
So a final thought for you to chew on.
If a company can actually spend money to market their competition in short, which other products on the shelf might be winning just because they're the planned alternative?
Not the preferred choice.
Right. We spend so much time analyzing what we buy. This raises a much bigger question. What are we buying simply because something else wasn't there?